Alright, this is a short mini lesson on the rhetorical strategy of contingency. The bulk of this lesson was created by Sean B. and Miranda S., and they did a really good job. And this should be helpful in getting you to understand what contingency is and how an author and why an author might use contingency as a strategy. Let's get started. So let's start out with what contingency is. It is a phrase or an argument that links two ideas together with words like if or unless. When those two words are used, or either of those words is used, it creates a situation where the reader must accept both parts of the statement or none of the statement. The keys to look for to see if something is contingency is to really focus on, do you see the use of that word if, or do you see the use of that word unless? Now, just because you see those words does not mean that it is contingency, but it's a clue that it might be contingency. And basically, the way contingency works is it's a logical fallacy, which means it's a trick in logic. It's something an author uses to sort of deceive or create a fake logic scenario for the audience. And so when you connect two ideas together using if or unless, you're saying that you have to accept both ideas, even if in reality we don't. Let's look a little more at what this means. Why would an author or speaker use this strategy? Well, because it works by making the audience accept both parts of a statement because of how they are linked. Again, they are connected or contingent upon one another, right? If this happens, then this will happen. One part of the statement is usually reasonable enough if we were to be presented with that idea by itself, but the second part that's connected to it is usually less reasonable. Now, the good part about contingency is the best way to understand it is really just looking at examples. So let's look at some examples. This would be an example of a statement of contingency. Unless you want the earth to turn into a barren crust, you must oppose corporate capitalist pigs tooth and nail. So there's your key word to let you know that this might be contingency. And you can see here where the two ideas are being connected. Here's one idea: unless you want the earth to turn into a barren crust, right? So do you want the earth to turn into a barren crust? Well, most of us would agree on this. No, we don't want that to happen, right? That's a pretty reasonable statement. The statement that follows, that's connected to it with the unless, is where some of us might disagree, right? You must oppose corporate capitalist pigs tooth and nail. It even uses negative, very negative connotation in there as well. So we wouldn't all agree on the second part. Most of us would agree on the first part, and because it uses that if or unless word, it connects these two things and says you have to accept them together. It's a very tricky way of wording things and connecting ideas that an author uses. Let's look at another one. This is maybe an easier way to think about contingency. While using words like if or unless, when putting two ideas together, you make the reader either accept both parts or accept none of them. That's a good idea of what contingency is. Here's another example. If we had hover boots, we would never fall. There's that if, and you see the initial statement, if we had hover boots, and the follow-up statement, it's contingent upon the first one. Let's keep looking here. Here's another example. You might have heard this about vegetables when you were a little kid, right? Again, here's our keyword unless. That gives us a hint of what this might be, right? Eat your macaroni, all right? Unless you want to die, right? Most of us would agree that eating macaroni is a good thing. We wouldn't all agree that someone who doesn't eat macaroni wants to die. It's pretty extreme, right? So you see how this trick in logic works on an audience. Hopefully, this helps you understand contingency a little better, how to spot it, and why an author would use it. And if you have any other questions about this strategy or any others, be sure to talk to your teacher about it.